Post the whole food into a cold water bath and let outside 1 hour.
Tu che va a
This melon is incredible.
Ele é mais branquinho, né?
Você mora aqui. É gostoso.
They don't want me with them. They go, well, I guess you can come with us if you want. Like, yeah, right. Where's your man? Did he go with him? Where's your man?
Yeah, he went with
us?
them.
Good.
I'm just going to browse, so if you guys...
You wipe your face off and play music. But I didn't want to tell you you said that.
Zeno is famous also because our carnival was born here more or less 500 years ago. They say it is the oldest carnival in Europe, even if the most famous one now is the Venetian carnival, because there they still enjoy the period in January and February. They organize not only carnival parades, which are like parades of Halloween in the States, but they also organize concerts, exhibitions, and many other things. So it's really a moment to enjoy the culture of the past. We also have our carnival parade, and it starts in Piazza Bra, where we finish our tour. It goes all around the town and it ends in the square of the church. And now we cross the river. When we are on the bridge, please look to the left. You can see the hills and the mountains. Verona has a flat area, the center and the southern part is flat, it belongs to the Po Plains, and then all around to the north, west and east we have hills. So if you look to the left, you can see the northern side of the hills, and if you look to the left but a little bit to the back, that area with the hills and the mountains that you can distinguish in the far, that's our Valpolicella. The Valpolicella area is a big part of our territory, going from the top of the mountains down to the plains, and it is famous because we have two red products coming from the Valpolicella: red marble that we will see everywhere in the city center, and red wine. The Valpolicella wine is also exported abroad. And now we follow the river. This is a river Adige. It is the second longest river in Italy after Po, but the fastest running river. It has its spring in the northern part of our country, near the border with Austria, and it comes down following the mountains. That's why it is so fast. When it arrives here, it finds the Po Plains, it begins to slow down, and right in the city center it creates a kind of S-letter shape. It turns to the east and it goes out in the Adriatic Sea a little bit southern than Venice. The Romans thought the river could be a good natural defense for the town, so the old city was created in the middle of the biggest loop of the river, so embraced by the water, and then the walls were built only toward the south. Then really during the centuries we had a lot of floods, the town was damaged many times, and so later in the end of the 19th century the citizens had to create embankments. I will tell you more about the river when we get off. Now please look to the front. You can see a castle and a very nice bridge. The castle was built in the second half of the 14th century, and it was the last residence of our lords. In the 13th and 14th century Verona was a kind of kingdom. Our lords were called scalas. They lived in the beginning in the city center, where we still have their square, their graves and all the other things, but later they moved outside the town, and this castle was built in a very strategic position. We had the walls arriving to the tower that you can see, the big tower, and then the river on this side, so the lords could escape from the city, both in case of insurrections of the citizens and in case of attacks from other towns. The castle was used from the 13th century to the end of the Second World War as a military place, and now it houses the main museum of Verona. There is a collection of sculptures of the Middle Ages and a wide collection of paintings from the 12th to the 18th century. If you keep on looking to the right, now you can see also the shape of this bridge, which was also built in the second half of the 14th century as a way to escape from Verona. This area where we are now, this side of the river, was completely empty, only countryside, only fields, owned by the citizens and by the monasteries. So the bridge was a good way to go out of Verona. Really, when the lords were betrayed in 1387, they went away from Verona via river by boat to Venice, and then from Venice they escaped to Germany. The houses that you can see on the right in the past had their direct access to the river. So the river was like the Canal Grande in Venice. It was navigable, there was a lot of traffic. So now we have embankments and the situation is a little bit different. In front of us on the right another bridge called the Victory Bridge. It was built after the First World War, so we are in the 1920s. All the bridges that we see now were reconstructed in the 1950s, so also the bridge of the castle and the Roman bridge that we will see in few minutes, they were all rebuilt in the 1950s after the Second World War. That's because the Germans, the last night of the war, before going away from Verona, they had to go out because the war was over and the Americans were coming. Before going away, to be sure to have enough time to escape, they put dynamite under all the bridges. All the bridges were blown up and they were rebuilt when possible with the original material which was in the bed of the river. Otherwise, in the same shape and with the most similar material to the original ones. Now in the river we only have canoes and boats for rafting. We are lucky because we can see 4 boats now, so you have an idea of what is now the river. In the past we had really big ships transporting passengers and also goods. Now we can only practice this kind of sport because we don't have so much water anymore. They enjoy this sport because the river is fast, so they can really think to have rapids even if we don't have it all. The old city is now on our right hand side. I think that from here you can understand the shape of the river, which turns to the right, so it creates the forced loop and it embraces the city center. So the old town is very, very narrow. The white bell tower on the right is the bell tower of our cathedral. You can also see part of the facade. The cathedral is dedicated to Our Lady Mother of the Christ. The church is now in Renaissance style with a lot of marble, but it was built in the 12th century and it was very similar to the church of Saint Zeno, so with those stripes, red bricks and yellow stones. And now we are crossing another modern area. If you look to the left, you can see on the other side of this crossway a building with arches and a kind of terrace on the top. And then when we move, keep on looking to the left, you can see a yellow building, an orange one, a white one. They were all houses built in the 1920s, 1930s in Liberty style or Art Nouveau. This was the place where the new business class moved. The new rich families left the city center, they moved outside the town, and this part became a new residential area. It was called the Garden Town. The architects of the Liberty style used to design not only the buildings themselves, but also which kind of furniture to put inside and beautiful gardens all around. Unfortunately, also this part of Verona got damaged during the Second World War, so we don't have so many Liberty style architectures like in the past. And now in front of us, on the right, another church. Verona became Christian in the 4th century, so you can imagine how many churches we have in town. They say that if we consider also the small churches which are now closed, we have 60 churches in Verona. This one on the right is called St. George Renaissance style. The bell tower and the round shape roof were designed by a famous artist, Michele San Micheli, who worked a lot also abroad for the Serenissima Republic of Venice. He was also considered a kind of engineer, military engineer. He died before finishing this church, that's why the bell tower is so short. No one wanted to go on with the work of that great master, and so his pupils simply put tiles on the bell tower, and that's all. In front of us, another bridge. This is considered the oldest monument in town, 1st century before Christ. It is called the Ponte Pietra, the stone bridge. It was really built all in local stone, then partly destroyed by the floods of the river, rebuilt in bricks by the Scalas in the Middle Ages, and then destroyed by the Germans. So also this one is a reconstruction of the 1950s. And now please look to the left. Just behind these buildings here we have a Roman theater. We don't see so much, to tell the truth, from the coach, because the theater is used during the summer and they cover